We never plan this stuff. It just all kind of flows out.
Yeah, that worked out really well.
What we say to each other cannot be divisive.
Gosh, I just think that when we get so focused on walking the line and just miss so much of God's creativity.
We only created the Odd Show to have this conversation.
Right.
We're gonna say some bad things about stuff.
If you're not bad things, like,
If you're a huge Toby Mac
turn it off now.
For people who are struggling with why would a God of the universe care about me individually, you are his favorite. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is The Odd Show. Let's get right into it. Here's your hosts, Bruce Bugano and Thomas Hogan. Hey, welcome back to The Odd Show. The G is silent and
The mics are hot.
the mics are hot. And I'm guessing that some people wish we were
Hotter?
silent like a G.
I know there's some people out there that wish we were a little hotter. And even more people out there wish we were a little quieter. A little
Probably.
silenter.
Man, we are just racking up. Like I'm watching the audio.
Just jump.
Man, all the way to the top.
Let's not get too loud.
All right. Anyway,
Very straightforward discussion today. Not a lot of crazy stuff. Just this is just a talk.
I feel like...
Do you feel like it's going to go off the rails?
No. I feel like we should at the beginning because I don't want to fall...
You don't want to mess up the whole thing.
I just don't want to fall
People
into
expect.
the expectation set by your friend in Utah that because we just recorded a show that we've run out of shenanigans. And I don't believe that's true.
Yeah, there's always
On a lot of
shenanigans to be
different
had.
levels.
What is this? What is the topic today? I forget.
So, this topic is actually a few years...
Oh, this has been happening for a couple of years now.
About 2 years ago, I tweeted something out.
Oh, okay.
And I had someone kind of text me back and was just like, no, like, what do you base that on? And I was like, oh, the Bible.
I mean, where do I get most of my good stuff?
And they were like, no, you're wrong. Like, you need to support that theologically. And I was like, no, I don't.
No, I know.
Jesus.
No, I don't. That needs to be my excuse now. No, they'll be like, what do you have to back that up? I don't. I back myself.
No, I just say the Bible. And then
Just-
they're like, theologically, where's that in the Bible? And I'm like,
The Bible's not a book of theology.
I don't have to do that.
Were you under the impression that the Bible's a book of theology?
The Bible's a book of systematic theology. That's ridiculous. I know.
I think there's actually a book called Systematic
There
Theology.
is, and it's based on the Bible.
Oh, yeah, of course it is. Of course, I got it. I'm following.
If you went to seminary, you'd know that. Oh, wait.
Just saying.
You did. Stop bucking the system. Just stop doing it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so a
Except
few
for
years
his-
ago, they were like, hey, I'm going to turn down the gain on this thing because it keeps spiking to the top of the moon.
We haven't listened to it to see if it's actually that loud.
That's
Maybe it's just the computer thinking it's that loud.
Computers are stupid. I'm just joking, alien overlords.
Technologically advanced beings that we are inferior to.
Yeah. Anyway, so they text me that. I was just like, no, I don't really need to like, but because I care about like my due diligence and I was pretty confident in the biblical truth of it. I spoke with a couple of pastor friends I know. I texted some and kind of sent that, wrote this thing up and sent it to them. Asked a couple of people that are not vocational pastors, but that I trust. And I think I might actually send it to you.
Okay.
And it was no help.
Accurate. Accurate integrity.
But I was really, especially after speaking with them, I was really confident. Like, no, like this thing is right.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend was like, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. So the thing was, all I did was tweet that the gospel is not intended to hurt people. So if you,
blasphemy! You basically you went apostate. You went full apostate on Twitter.
which is the purpose of Twitter, isn't it?
Maybe. So say it again. Say it again. I want people to really absorb the outright blasphemies that you're
Right. So here goes, and I'm going to say it right into the mic, and I'm going to say it slow, with a very soft voice. The gospel, as presented in the Bible, is not intended to hurt people.
You heard it here first, folks.
So the issue
Theology on the edge is what we're doing at the Odd Show.
that would be a good.
Theology on the edge.
So-
We are at the edge of rational, systematic theology. We're just
Right.
all the way over there.
So actually, that'd be
Radicals.
a great
Radicals.
podcast, Theology
Yeah.
on the Edge.
Yep. Radicals is what we are.
We have there's a guy.
Wait. You're telling me that in your understanding of the biblical outlay of the gospel, it is not intentionally hurtful?
Yes.
The gospel is not an assault and battery.
Your
A battery of assaults.
your response. Are we talking like a sock full of batteries that you hit people with?
I don't know any other version of the gospel
No.
that you're preaching.
Your response to the gospel.
I don't know if the audience can appreciate how radical of an idea that is. That the gospel itself is not intended to hurt people.
So the argument was, yes, it does.
Of course somebody's going to argue that that's the case.
And so I was like, yeah, but what's your biblical, theological art? Like, what's your support for this?
Well, I got two mics that back me up.
Which one do you want to speak into? And for those of you just listening, he held up his fists.
I've got some brass knuckles here that say Jesus Christ on them. that beg to differ.
I'm going to get the Bible into you, whether I have to hit you with it or preach it to you.
Have you seen the? I forget the name of the movie with the Bible school, the girls in Bible school, or not Bible school, Bible camp.
Mm.
Oh, I forget. They basically do like kind of a conversion therapy type thing.
Oh.
And they help them escape, and it's Mandy Moore's in it. I forget the name of it, but it's like a Bible. It's like a church camp they go to, and they're all like super religious community. And she's like,
The Village? And that's
no. But in the movie, Mandy Moore's character is like a super Christian girl, and she's like they're mouthing off each other, and she's like, I am full of the love of Christ, and she throws a Bible at her.
Oh, now I want to see
And
it.
I feel like that's the person that's arguing with you is like, I'm full of the love of Christ, and then they throw like shuriken at you. like a ninja blade.
Oh.
They're like throw like a Trinity ninja blade. A little three-sided star.
It's in my heart!
I'm full of the love of Jesus. Oh my
Yeah, so the
goodness.
argument was, no, the Bible makes it clear that it hurts.
Right. It can be offensive.
And so there it is. That's different. And so my argument was, no, your response to the gospel is not the gospel. In that, and the example I use, if you, like, and I've known people, if there are two people, and they're both preach the gospel, they hear the good news, and one of them's response, the first guy's response is, this can't be so. Like, it can't be the only way. And they're resistant to the good news.
Right.
And then they eventually begrudgingly accept the truth of it and believe it and struggle with living inside of that truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's one response.
Sure.
But then the other guy joyfully receives that and walks into discipleship and is joyful in it.
Truth, grace, peace,
Yeah,
all that stuff. Yeah.
And those are their responses, but the gospel's the same.
Sure.
And it wasn't intended to hurt you. Your response is your response and not the gospel and not the message of Christ. It's not the good news. Your response is your response.
Right.
Regardless of...
Right. Your offense is all in you. You're offended either that the gospel's too easy or that the gospel's too much.
And so I don't want to muddy the water between and interchange offense and hurt. Like I'm talking about like hurt.
Right. Well, it's assault on you.
Right.
Right. The assault of the gospel is really how you take it.
It's based
not
on
the
your
gospel
response
itself.
to it.
Right. God's free gift of salvation to the lost and the hurting and the broken and the dying.
I just don't understand.
That is not an assault.
A thing that's intended to hurt you is good for someone who's hurting. What? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like,
that's the kind of theology an idiot would put on his luggage.
like, wait a second. The life-giving good news of Christ is meant to hurt you.
Yes. No, it's not. But yeah,
Right.
that's what they're saying.
That's the argument, and I'm like, that's.
And it will attack your preconceived
Your sensibilities.
Your perception of who and what God is and who and what you are is going to be confronted
Right.
by the gospel. The gospel is going to confront that, and it's going to negatively impact them, and it's going to rearrange how everything works.
Right.
But
that's different.
Yeah, but that's
the intent.
But that's like telling an alcoholic, like, well, the problem is we haven't given you enough alcohol.
Right.
We need to hurt you some more.
Right.
No. Let's
so-
find out how to move you into a space of freedom.
The argument becomes about the intent of the gospel versus your response to the gospel.
Yeah.
And the intent of the gospel is to bring good news to
set
a world
you free.
where bad news
I came to set the captives
has
free.
dominion over.
I came to set the captives free. I did not come to
Condemn the world.
enslave more people.
He actually says, I didn't come to condemn, but to save.
Yeah. So enslaving more people, not the purpose of the gospel. The
Even
purpose of a lot of people.
Even though Paul uses language like, I'm a slave to Christ.
But he broadens that idea out by saying,
Right. And so, like, don't confuse
you're a
that.
slave to whatever you can't. You're a slave to whatever you can't stop doing.
Right.
So he's like not saying like I'm a slave in the sense that I've been enslaved.
And his point is like
I'm shackled to something by not being able to quit.
I can't quit you.
Why can't I? Oh my gosh! Oh, that's gonna jump off real fast. We're gonna lose. Definitely lost somebody on that one. No, I agree. I think
my mind automatically went to Better Off. Was it Better Off Dead? Or no, Say Anything. Where I gave him my heart. I gave her my heart, and all she gave me was a pen. I don't know why this.
John Cusack. It's a classic. It's a classic of the Odd Show.
Most underrated actor in Hollywood.
Yep. The classic of the Odd Show. Anytime we bring up John Cusack, we get points. It's not a drinking game, unless it's communion.
Right.
Have communion every time we bring up John Cusack. Oh boy. Yeah, I feel like the gospel. I get the idea they're trying to. There's a version of Christianity or a layer of Christianity that's very theological, and it's very much we need to all agree on some stuff.
Right.
And one of those things that particular brand of Christianity has in common is their belief that the gospel offends the heart. It offends the spiritual deadness, the spiritual laxness, the spiritual inability of man. And in the gospel confronts that spiritual reality, like the deadness of our lives, and the jolt of that is hurtful, harmful. It destroys the old man.
Right.
Like this is a theological lean that some people have, and that belief is so concrete that there's no nuance or flexibility for.
Right.
But the gospel is a life-giving thing.
Right.
It's not.
It dismisses the fact that while it is true that the old is put off and destroyed, it gives new. Like the point is not to destroy the old. The point is to bring new.
Right.
And so, I don't know. Like so in Divine Frankenstein, which is not a book yet. But someday will be.
Are you going to get sued by Mary Shelley's people? I haven't talked to you about it. You're not worried about it because Frankenstein's a vernacular. It's part of the vernacular at this point. It's part of just common language.
Right. And you can mention.
You mean
I'm not
something
rewriting.
put together.
I'm not rewriting. I mean, like that's how people can write. Harry Potter and God, a book about Harry Potter and God, and mention.
I wonder if that person got sued.
Yeah. If I get sued, what are they going to say?
I know they got abandoned by a lot of Christians who are already upset about it.
Right. Anyway, I put together this idea that where Frankenstein, the Dr. Frankenstein, took dead pieces and put them together and animated them. There wasn't actually any real life in it. It was just animated dead pieces. But God, while taking things that are already dead, so it's not like the gospel comes in and kills what's already dead. It's already dead. So the gospel takes what's already dead, puts it back together into this new thing, and breathes actual life into it. It doesn't just animate dead. It turns something that was into something that is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Is that theologically unsound? Because I'm gonna have to rewrite the entire book.
I think if you spend a whole book explaining it, saying it in one.
Right, and I do spend
a
lot.
Right.
More
It's
time.
not. That's not the book, is it?
What?
The last minute.
That sentence?
No,
that'd be a short book.
Yeah. I feel like
Although-
you don't get the concept.
Although low and no content books are hot right now,
I feel
which are called journals.
right.
People are calling no content books. It's
Those
a
are-
journal. Call it a journal. Stop it.
I don't know what people.
Stop.
I don't. I mean, I write, but I don't know if I write books. Maybe if I put all my writing.
I could write a no content book.
If I put all of my content into one place, maybe then it would be able.
Yeah.
But
I still like poetry book, but
yeah.
stop doing that. I mean, start doing that, but stop not doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get the gist of it. I feel like the gospel confronts darkness.
Right.
The gospel confronts brokenness and hopelessness, and all of the things that are an affront to God are confronted by the gospel.
Right.
So I'm okay with someone having the idea in their head that the gospel can be offensive. It is an offense to
Right.
anything that offends the Lord.
But I don't think.
I don't think that's
different
not.
than hurts.
But I also think that's a byproduct of
Right.
what the gospel's trying to do.
Right.
It is not what the gospel's trying to do. I think that is when the word of God comes into your life for the first time, and you hear freedom's call, and you respond to it, whatever that looks like or sounds like to you, and you respond to it. The byproduct of that response is a lot of other areas of your life
Sure.
being shattered.
Sure.
A lot of other things in your mind and in your mental process and in your spiritual awakening and in your mental pursuits and whatever. All of that stuff gets rocked. And,
Sure,
and because there are dead things there and they're being shaken off and being shaken up.
Right.
And so, you're shaking a tree and leaves that are not sturdy are falling out of the tree, to use an analogy. And so I think that that's a reality of what's happening. It's not, the intent wasn't, I'm going to shake off all these dead leaves. The intent is to say, there's the stuff here that's living, that's meaningful, that's going to produce fruit. I want that to be strong.
Right.
And so in doing that, you're going to shake off some dead stuff. You're going to break up some monotony. You're going to displace some fear and some anger and maybe some sin in your life. Maybe some sin in your life your sin in your life is going to be confronted by the power of God. And when that happens, you might be offended. But I think some people, in the same way that somebody who's going through detox might not like the process of detox, but the end goal is, I want freedom.
Yeah.
I don't want to live in debauchery, and I don't want to live in an addiction to cocaine or methamphetamine or whatever pills you're taking. I don't want to live in a state of desperation for the rest of my life. I want to see what freedom tastes like. And in the same way that detox is not a wonderful experience, it is a purposeful experience and a necessary experience. I don't think it's offensive because it's offensive. It's offensive because it's difficult.
Right.
It's a confrontation.
And that's my thing is like our ability to separate the gospel from our response. Like,
Yeah. I think there's some
You know what I'm
necessary.
saying?
Yeah, I see some value in that.
and the gospel in and of itself, the intent is not to.
Right, because you would never present the gospel. I mean, I guess it is interesting that the kind of gospel you present is also the kind of Christian you end up making.
Right.
So I know a lot of offensive Christians.
Right.
Because the version of the gospel they were given is very offensive.
Right.
The version of the gospel that was preached to them was very much about heaven and hell and
Fire insurance and.
yeah, well, they liked being offended, so they felt like, oh, that's the response I should have to the gospel. And maybe they were offended. I'm not doubting that they were offended. But then the version of the gospel that they present to others is the same.
Right.
It is
But
like
again,
instead of
and that's you literally changing the intent of the gospel. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Basing the intent of the gospel on your response to the gospel.
Mhm.
So I'm going to sell it that way, and that's still your.
And we have to be very. I think as ministers, we have to be careful how we present the gospel. I mean, obviously, the go-to is relationship. You present the gospel relationally. Relationship. Oh man, I wish I had my thing. Lee Wood, man, he typed some really good stuff today about what they're learning about mentorship, and I'll read it later. Well, maybe we'll post it or something. But one of the things he said is relationship always comes before organization.
Right.
Relationship builds organizations. Organizations don't build relationships.
I mean, you think about any of the big gateway. Or I mean, Microsoft, Apple. Those were friendships in a garage. Those were guys that were friends in a garage that were really smart.
Yeah.
And were like, hey, let's do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
change the world.
And it changed everything.
Yeah.
But you look at churches, it's this small, and we talked about it in the last episode we recorded, it's this small group of connected and close people with a vision, and their relationship is what drives the organization forward into this bigger thing, right? Because without those relationships, it doesn't get built. Maybe one guy, but he's still going to find people.
Yeah.
So,
no, I agree. I think that you need to be clear about your separation between the response to the gospel and what the gospel is. Because the gospel is the gift of God to save men.
it's the good news.
Yeah.
Literally.
It is not the condemnation of God to destroy men. It is the gift of God that anyone who believes will be saved. It is not it's not this negative thing. It doesn't occupy this negative space that's intended to hurt people and be bashed over anyone's head or conquer kingdoms.
Right.
Because it'll conquer kingdoms by loving people well
Mm-hmm.
and revealing the light and love of Christ. It doesn't conquer kingdoms by literally going over and destroying Turkey.
Right. Unless you're the British Empire and you're on conquest in the
That's not
1300s,
right.
1200s. But
I would say that's not evangelism.
I would say that they thought it was.
For sure. They're allowed to be.
In that case, the gospel hurt people.
I think the gospel hurt those guys. See that guy with his head on a pike over there? I think the gospel hurt him.
Dang, I was wrong. You couldn't be more wrong, sir.
Yeah. The Crusades were probably the gospel hurting people. But I don't know if that was the gospel.
That wasn't the gospel.
I think that was people
That was people's response. The gospel, the gospel that they were given, they delivered it.
Yep.
They molded the gospel to their own reaction to it. Because the Romans came and to Britannia and had piked people. No, Jesus loves you.
Piked people prove a point. That's the point that goes right in through your skull.
Yep. Okay, so this might be our shortest episode this season.
Guys, if you disagree and you think the gospel is intended to be offensive and that God sent it to the world to
and not just
condemn the world,
I can't. I want to make the point. Not just that
it hurts people,
but the intent of it is to hurt you, or that delivering it regardless hurts you. And I'm not talking about no pain, no gain, and detox hurts, and no, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the purpose of the gospel is to save and not meant to hurt you, and your reaction to it is different.
Yeah,
and everybody's going to have a different reaction to it. C.S. Lewis was just I read it. I knew it to be true. I did not want to believe it.
Culturally, it was part of who we are. It's an identity thing.
Right.
But but my response to it is as an intellectual is, that's silly.
He was yes, it all makes sense.
I don't have time for fairy tales. I'm going to spend the rest of my life in fairy tales.
Right. I'll spend the rest of my life developing a fairy tale land where it snows, but it's never Christmas. It's winter, but
always winter, never Christmas.
Anyway.
This episode.
Huh?
Oh boy!
All right, so that's the show.
I'm Mr. Thomas,
and
this is Bruce the Beaver.
So we'd like to know what you think, and so that's it.
Please stop hurting people with the gospel.
Yeah.
Love people with the gospel instead.
All right, stay up.
Stay on.
Thanks for checking out The Odd Show. You can follow Bruce on Twitter at bpags2 and Thomas at BlenderZen. Remember to rate and review us on iTunes and share us with your friends. Until next time, stay odd.